I messed up big time. Let's get into it. So as you can tell by the title of this video and the choice of my footwear, we've had a bit of an injury, specifically in the area of my big toe. And in this video, we're going to be getting into the who, what, when, where, why, and how on what has gone on, everything that's happened, and why my foot is now in this state. And just before we get into this, there is no footage of how it happened. This is just the story of how it happened. I can't put too much graphic content in this video because it will get age restricted, and I want this to be a lesson for older riders and, more importantly, younger riders too. So it started off a typical Sunday. Sunday is fun day. That's the day where me and the boys go out riding. And it was a glorious day, just like today. The sun was shining, the UK spring was finally taking effect, and the weather was finally warming up. Things were drying out. It was good times. It started off a good day, and I went to meet 3 of the boys. We met Woody, we met Jay, and we met B-Rad. It was a bit of a slow start to the day. Normally when we turn up, we gotta get suited and booted and then we go out riding, but today we had a bit of a bike problem on one of the bikes, so we were sort of taking it slow. We were having a bit more of a chill day, and we were looking at one of our friends' bikes, trying to get it prepped for the day, making sure everything was working correctly. So me and B-Rad decided we were going to go for a bit of a cruise while Jay and Woody met their girlfriends, wives and kids, whatever. And me and B-Rad were out cruising on the bikes, having a really good time. I was just showing B-Rad the ropes. This forest that we go to, it's been in videos previously. It's nothing too crazy, but there's loads of cool trails, fast trails, some slower ones with a lot of cool just little twists and berms. Again, nothing huge, no big jumps, but just fast, nice trails, especially when it's a day like today and it's so sunny. The woods is the place to be riding. After a short while, Jay and Woody decided to return, so we had all the boys back together and we were cruising around the forest, loving life. It was such a good day. The conditions were just so good. It was running so nice in the forest. So after riding for maybe half an hour, 45 minutes, we'd finally got to the Badger Drop, and the Badger Drop is basically a little downhill section, but some boys have built little wooden kickers into the downhill section. So I think you've got 3 or 4 kickers ranging from maybe about 1 foot high to about 2 foot high that then send you down into the Badger Drop. You don't have to be a good rider to hit the Badger Drop. As long as you got a bit of confidence and you hit it with continuous speed, then you're going to drop down into the drop absolutely fine. And it's actually a really smooth little section that you can jump down into, and then it goes off into a bit of a berm. If I've got any footage, I'll put it in the video now. And so for a good 15 to 20 minutes, we were absolutely loving the Badger Drop. The boys were sending it. We were trying all the different levels. Woody was having a go. Even B-Rad was having a go. And we were making really good use of all the little trails around this Badger Drop section. It's definitely one of my favourite places to go in this forest. So after we'd had all the fun at the Badger Drop, we decided that we're actually going to go away from this forest that we were in, and we were going to go and try the forest that is over the road, because it's a new location that we'd not really scoped out yet. So we were getting a bit adventurous. We were going to go and try this new forest, which is when everything sort of took a bit of a turn. So on the way from the first forest that we'd started in, on the way to the second forest, we were going to make a stop off at the vehicle so we could go and get a few more supplies, drinks, things like that. And we were flying down these trails roughly 35-40 mile an hour. So Woody was at the front of the group, and Woody had took off. He'd actually gained a bit of speed and got a bit ahead of me. Then I was behind Woody, and then a little bit further behind me and Woody, you had Jay and you had B-Rad. And I've come down this straight trail. I could see exactly what's in front of me, and all of a sudden I've just stopped dead. I've just completely stopped. All I felt was smack on my big toe, and it was just instant shock, instant pain and instant shock. So what I'd actually done is, riding down this trail, I've gone 35-40 mile an hour basically into a tree stump that was on the right side of the bike, so it's obviously hit my right leg. I say hit my right leg, the only thing that took the impact was my big toe on my right foot. My middle toe sort of took a bit of impact, the toe next to the big toe, but my big toe is the one that has suffered all of the pain and injury. So basically between my 2 inside toes on my right foot, I have taken the impact of 35 mile an hour to just full on force of tree stump, man. Oh, it was so bad. It was so bad. So instantly after hitting the tree stump, I've not even fallen off the bike. I've just slowly put the bike down and got onto the floor. So B-Rad and Jay came up behind me, and obviously they started having a bit of a laugh because they think, oh, Matt's fallen off. He's had a bit of a crash. And normally it's quite funny. Normally you have a chuckle when your mate comes off, but they didn't see what happened. And between that split second of them starting laughing and them realising how much pain I was in, everything changed. I could tell by their reaction. They were like, oh, he's in pain. Say within 30 seconds of me actually hitting the tree stump, I'd managed to get onto the floor, take my helmet off. I'd took my shoe off and then ripped my sock off, and instantly I could see the mess that was beneath my sock. And like I say, my big toe and that middle toe had just taken all of that impact so hard. I don't want to go into too much detail of how gory and gruesome it was, because it was a real mess, and I don't even know what I'm allowed to say on YouTube without it being too much. The toenail on my big toe was completely ripped off. That was attached pretty much to my sock. And the underneath of my big toe, imagine having a grape in between your fingers and just squishing the grape, and where it splits and opens up, that's essentially what my toe was looking like at this moment in time. So after looking at the injuries are always worse when you look at them. If you have an injury and you can't see it and you can feel it, it's actually not that bad until you look at it, and then you know the real level of impact and the level of injury you've got. That's when everything kicks in. We were sort of debating at this point what we could do and how we were going to get me back to the vans. Of course, I couldn't really put my shoe back on at this point. I couldn't even look at my foot without screaming in pain. So after about 5 minutes of trying to debate what to do and me being on the floor screaming in pain, we've sent B-Rad off back to the van. He was going to come back and get my bike so I could get on the back of one of the boys' bikes and we could get back to the van. But within that time of B-Rad trying to get back to the van and me being in pain on the floor, I just thought, I've got to get back to the van and we've got to get to a hospital because it was that bad. So I've jumped back on my bike, no shoe or sock on my foot, with a toe that is just an absolute mess. And we've managed to ride maybe, I don't know, 1.5 miles, 2 miles through a forest, through woodland, back to the van. Jay is a good lad. He was carrying all my stuff. He was carrying my helmet, my shoe. He was carrying all my stuff that I couldn't carry anymore. I literally had me and the bike, and we were fighting through the forest to get back to the van with my toe was hanging off, bro. It was disgusting. It was so disgusting. So eventually we've got back to the vans. We had the option of, do we go straight to the hospital or do we try and get me home? So we've drove 45 minutes from the forest that we were at back to where I live. My mum, absolute blessing of a lady. You've got to respect and love your mum for the things they do. She took me straight to the hospital. This is all at like 7 p.m. on an Easter Sunday, literally Sunday evening, 7 p.m. and I'm dragging my mum out to take me to the hospital. So after sitting in the van for 45 minutes to get back home, then another half an hour to get to a hospital, it's been well over an hour since this incident had happened. Obviously I was in excruciating pain. I couldn't even look at my toe. I didn't want to look at my toe. Even when we got to A&E and I finally got seen by some nurses and some people, I think everybody who looked at my toe just looked speechless. They didn't even have a reaction. When I explained what happened, they were sort of like, yeah, okay, that sounds all right. And then when they saw what had happened, they were like, oh my God, what have you done? How have you done this? Again, that sort of summarised how bad my big toe sort of actually was. So thankfully in the UK, we have the thing called the NHS. So I can go to a hospital, you can get seen by the correct people and get your injury sorted out, and you don't actually pay a penny. So unlike a lot of these other countries, if you don't have good health insurance, it could cost you a fortune having a small injury like this. But in the UK, we're so lucky that we've got the NHS. At least we're blessed enough that we've got that option, that we can go to a hospital and be seen by these people free of charge. So once being seen by a few nurses and a few doctors at the hospital, they basically come to the conclusion that they were going to try and stitch my toe back up. They were going to try and save everything that was there, what was left of it basically. I'd been at the hospital for maybe 3 hours, getting on 4 hours by this point. They'd been given some wicked painkillers, so the toe wasn't in so much pain anymore. And then I had to go and have my toe actually stitched up, and that was a different experience in itself. I did this awake under local anaesthetic, which means they just numbed up my foot and my big toe. And I couldn't feel any pain, but I could just feel them pulling at my toe. I couldn't feel anything internally, it was just movement, and it was crazy, man. I've never felt anything like it. I grew up on skateboards, scooters, bikes. I've lived my life at skate parks since the age of about, I don't know, 7-8 years old, and I've had some injuries, but this is by far the worst injury I've had yet. And so once the team of doctors had actually sewed up my toe, they essentially sent me back home and said, you're going to have to come in a few days time for an assessment to see how it's healing up, because injuries like this can take a turn quick. If it gets infected, it can turn really nasty, and you've got to keep an eye on injuries like this. So within a few days I was back at the hospital. They decided that I'd got two options at this point. I'd not broken any bones, so my bones were absolutely fine. I knew that I'd not broken any bones at this point. I could tell as soon as I'd done it. My toe bones were fine. It was just impact injury. They basically gave me the option of I could come in for an operation and get the wound cleared up, get all that dead skin taken off, back to fresh wound, or we could leave it wrapped up. Eventually that dead skin's going to dry and fall off. Sounds absolutely disgusting, I know. I thought it was disgusting, so I went with the first option of we have the operation and pretty much get my toe taken back to a fresh wound so it can heal nicely. It's a cleaner healing process. It should be a faster healing process, although it has not been a fast healing process whatsoever. And so the next day, after seeing the nurses and doctors again, I was back into the hospital for another operation, and at this point it had been just under a week. It had been 6 days at this point. Furthermore, I was sent home that night, and it is basically just a case of rest and recovery now. At this point on the day of filming this video, it has now actually been just under 3 weeks. I believe it's been 2 weeks and 5 days since the injury. I'm just about walking. I can just about put a sock on my toe. It's been a pretty nasty healing process, I can't lie. Obviously, all of this time means no time on the bike, which has meant no content on the bike. It's meant just no fun times. Typically, all of this happens when the springtime actually takes effect, and the sun is shining now for the next 2 weeks. The sun has been shining for the past 2 weeks, so I've missed out on a month of sunshine just because of a dumb injury. And so what is the whole point of this video? What is the point of me telling this story? Well, obviously it's a pretty gruesome and cool story to tell people in the first place, but also there is a big lesson to be learned in this video. So in front of me I've placed 2 pairs of footwear, and I'll give you one guess as to which pair I was wearing on the day of doing this injury. And if you guess the boots, you are absolutely wrong. If you guess the Air Force One trainers, you are absolutely correct. So the lesson in this video is wear your safety gear, wear the correct safety gear. And normally I am really good at wearing my safety gear. I will religiously wear a helmet, not just when I'm filming. At all times I will wear a helmet. Gloves are essential. If you fall off and scrape your hands and bad enough that somebody's got to wipe your ass for you for 6 weeks, it's not a pleasant thing for you or for them. So gloves are always a must. I will not leave the house to go on my bike without wearing knee pads and shin pads. It's been something that I've done since I bought the Surron. Very early on I had a little accident when I first bought the ROM, and I wasn't wearing my safety gear. Essentially because of that put me out of riding for a week. So since then I've been so good at wearing safety gear, apart from boots. Boots are the one thing that I've never been great at wearing. When I first got my Surron, I started wearing the Air Force Ones and mainly stuck to wearing trainers. Because of the Surron's size and the feel of the bike, it is actually disgusting having to wear boots on a Surron, and I can actually understand why so many people don't. But also, if you are going to be riding off-road on a Surron, if you're going to be riding off-road on any sort of bike, just wear the correct gear, wear the correct footwear. I've definitely learnt my lesson. You only do this sort of thing once you feel how bad this pain was, and once you saw how much of a mess I'd made of my toe. It's the sort of thing you literally only do once. So for me, going forwards in the future, I'm always going to be picking the boots over picking the trainers. Considering the trainers were what I was wearing, this is the exact one I was wearing on that day. There's not even any damage to the outside of the shoe. That's where the toe had hit, and the toe is absolutely fine. Literally, the bottom of the shoe is absolutely fine. There's no hole in where my toe hit. All that happened was it just squashed my toes in there against the sole of the shoe. And so what does this mean, obviously, going forwards? It means wearing my boots for a start. I even said in my last video, I literally foreshadowed it by saying we're riding off-road and I'm not wearing my boots. Roll the clip here. Smooth as anything. I'm not even in my boots today and we're sending it off-roading. So I foreshadowed this in the video that I posted a few days ago, literally a week ago. It obviously means that I can't ride my bike and film any riding content for the next 2 weeks plus. It's definitely going to be at least a minimum of 2 weeks from now before I even think about putting a shoe on. And even then it could be another 3, 4, 5 weeks before I even get to that point where I can put an actual shoe on my foot. In terms of damage to the bike, what damage did we actually do to the bike? And there was only one place that took impact on the bike, and of course this was the foot peg. So looking at the foot peg, you can see that it has taken some impact, and rather than it being sat flat, it's actually now twisted up. So because of how my toe would have caught in between the foot peg and then hit the tree stump, it's ripped that foot peg back, which has probably assisted in tearing my toe apart completely. In fairness, I'm actually pretty amazed that the foot peg itself, or the bracket, or the mount, I'm surprised none of that actually broke because of how much impact I hit that stump with. Like I say, it stopped me dead from 35-40 mile an hour. That is a lot of impact to a little tiny bit of metal, and you got to give hats off to JXR for making some of the strongest mounts and the strongest foot peg brackets, as well as Surron supplies with some of the strongest foot pegs. So in summary, it's inevitable that riding these bikes, you're going to have some sort of injury down the line somewhere. Nobody gets away with never hurting themselves on these bikes. Some people will get minor injuries, some people will get major injuries. It all runs in line with how you ride these bikes. but typically it's always the stupid injuries that cause the most damage. You can send the biggest jump of your life, fall off and maybe scratch your leg and hurt your arm, but then you can ride down a simple trail and absolutely mash your toe up on a tree stump that comes out of nowhere. So from now on, I'll be riding boots in basically all the off-road riding that I do. And if one person watches this video and makes that decision to wear boots all the time too, then that's my job done. If I can inspire one person to not make the same mistake that I did and just have a stupid injury that causes them a lot of hassle, a lot of pain, and if it can all be avoided by them watching this video and deciding to wear the proper footwear on a Surron, or just even safety gear in general, then that's my job done. So obviously I got a bit of healing time before we can get back on the bike and get riding, but I do have some videos that I'm going to be trying to get filmed over the next few weeks as well. So if you are new here to the channel and you do like seeing my sort of content that's already on the channel, maybe not this sort of video but previous videos, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button. If you do want to give me a bit of sympathy in this video, then drop me a like down below. It will definitely go a long way, making me feel somewhat a bit better about how much of an idiot that I've been. And if you are actually brave enough to want to see the mess that my toe was in, go ahead, drop me a message on Instagram. I've got photos of it. I'm more than happy to share the photo of my toe. I just didn't want to put it in this video and get it age restricted and harder for people to find, because I wanted this to be a lesson for people. So with all that being said and done, hopefully we'll be back on the bike soon. Hopefully the channel will return to normal, but until then, I'm Matt Francis signing out. Peace.